Hi there, it's Nicole for Lawn Fawn, and today I'm sharing a Christmas card created with all die cuts featuring Shut the Front Door, the large and small wreath dies, birch tree dies, stitched hillsides, lots of dies used to create this beautiful scene that's more kind of elegant than what you might consider coming from Lawn Fawn, which tends to be very cute and playful and fun. I'm going to start with this cream cardstock, and I'm going to trim it down to A2 sized 5.5 by 4.25. However, I'm going to trim this down a little bit to frame it up on my card front when I get done. I always like to start with a bigger piece when I'm not entirely sure what direction it's going to go. So at this point, I'm really working on building my quote-unquote house from the base up. I've taken some white embossing paste and putting it through my very favorite stencil. This is the Tim Holtz bricked stencil. I have used this so many times and I never get tired of it. It is fantastic for that great realistic bricked look. I am purposely being a little messy with my embossing paste. I don't want a really smooth finish. I want some of that texture in the bricks because I want this to look like a white brick house. Now, I need to cover that whole panel. However, I can't really do that until this layer of embossing paste has dried. It does not take that long. I'm going to set it aside and I'm going to put together the rest of my embellishments. I have pre-die cut everything here to save time in the video. I am assembling the elements from the mini wreath first. This has the adorable little mini wreath you see here, plus the little bow and the holly berries. There is a large and a small, or a large and a mini version. And the mini is perfect for fitting on the little shut the front door that you can see there to the left. So I die cut the wreath twice, once from Noble Fir cardstock and once from a green glitter cardstock, and layered the Noble Fir onto the glitter so that just hints of that glitter show through. And then I'm assembling the bow and kind of holding it there with some tweezers until the glue dries. I'm using Ranger Multi-Matte Medium to adhere my embellishments. Now, while the tweezers are holding the bow in place and the glue is drying, I'm going to add tiny little dabs of glue in 3 places on the wreath, and then take the little holly berries and put them in place using a quick stick tool. A jewel picker would work, something to keep your fingers out of the glue. I tend to be, these are so small. I think anybody's fingers are going to get in the way. And little tools like this, the quick stick tool, are just invaluable when you're putting little dies together. To adorn the holly berries even more, I'm going to put some autumn red Nuvo crystal drops right on top of all of these, and I'm going to let this sit and dry. Pretty much while my background is drying, the wreath and all of the embellishments on this are drying as well. I am using the Tonic Studios white craft mat. I've had lots of questions about that lately. That is the white mat I'm using. It does clean off beautifully. It is amazing. I love it. Those Nuvo crystal drops that I put on the mat, just kind of making sure there were no air bubbles, those will all pop off when they're dry perfectly. So very easy clean. The contrasting elements on the door, I have die cut from black licorice. The door itself was die cut from Storm Cloud cardstock. And again, using the Shut the Front Door die set. This door does open. For my card, I am not going to use the opening feature. So I went ahead and put glossy accents on my doorknob so that it's glossy when it's completely dry. It's just going to be a glossy black. And I'm setting that aside to dry. By that time, you can see the glossy accents is still wet. They're in the top part of the screen. I'm going to go ahead and brick up the rest of my house. Now there's a little bit of a seam there, and I'm just going to kind of go in a couple places and smooth it out, and it'll help kind of blend the two areas together a little bit better. However, it's not going to be that noticeable. Once my background is completely dry, I am going to trim it down so that the panel is 4 inches by 5.25 inches. This is going to make, when I adhere this panel to my card base, that it has a 1/8 inch border all the way around, which I think it's going to look really nice for this and kind of help frame up my front door scene. I've got a lot of elements now. I'm going to go ahead and put the front door together first, and then we'll talk about some of the other parts for this scene. Because I'm not using the door opening feature, but I want something back behind the openings in the door, I'm going to back it with a piece of vellum attached with some score tape. And I'm using this, I probably could have put a different adhesive back behind there, but this works fine. If you were wanting the door function to work, you would just put that tape around the 3 sides and the door will open, which is really fun if you want some little critters peeking out or different things like that for an interactive element. I really felt like there was a lot going on here, and this is more, like I mentioned at the beginning, an elegant design, so I decided not to have the door open for this particular card. I'm going to back this with the vellum, and that's going to give kind of that frosted glass look to the window. Most of that is disguised with the wreath, but I really think that's going to help a little bit. My borders here were die cut from smooth white cardstock using stitched Hillside Borders dies, which are some of my most often used dies still from Lawn Fawn. But I want it to kind of look like snow is right up next to the front door. Plus I have a birch tree that I'm going to have a little cardinal sitting in, and that is going to be kind of over to the side of the house. So it's almost like you're walking up to the front door and it's all Christmas themed and snowy. Now, the tree was die cut from craft cardstock, but I thought that was a little harsh. I wanted it to be a little bit more muted and look a little snowy, so I inked it up with some Lawn Fawn YETI White pigment ink. And I'm going to set that to dry just a little bit and place a foam adhesive then on the back of my front door. That's going to help pop it up a little bit. It's not going to lay terribly flat anyway because of the embossing paste bricked background of this panel. And I love the scrapbook adhesives, thin foam squares. They are really nice and thin, but yet still give some fantastic dimension. And I'm going to offset my door just a little bit and not have it right in the center. I did place the one snowy panel there back behind. That's just for dimension, really. It's not really the snow back behind the door, obviously, but the other one's going to be kind of here in front, and this is the one that's really going to give the feeling of the snow kind of being in front of the front step. I placed all this foam adhesive down here at the bottom, forgetting that this is slightly overhanging my background. So some of this is going to get trimmed off. You'll see that in a little bit, and that's perfectly okay. It's not too big of a deal. It is just a little bit more work to cut through, so I'm going to cut that off real quick. Clean that up. Now it's going to be very thin down here near the bottom. To fix that, I'm going to trim off just a tiny little bit, and then I will glue the rest down with Ranger Multi-Matte Medium. Adding Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen to the bow on the wreath, and then using the Ranger Multi-Matte Medium to attach the wreath to the front door. So super pretty. Here's a little bit more glue to attach that cardstock. And it's okay that a little bit of it squeezed out from underneath that layer. I'm going to be adding the Lawn Fawn PRISMA glitter all over this card to give the look of kind of ice crystals and snow all over. So at the top of the door frame, we're going to start first with a little bit of Ranger Multi-Matte Medium, and then this snowy border down near the bottom. Prisma glitter is fantastic. I am in love with this glitter. It is amazing and creates fantastic looks on all kinds of cards. Tapping off that excess. Once this dries, it's going to be this beautiful, crystally kind of looking effect that is really nice. Now I want some down here near the bottom as well. Go ahead and funnel this back into my jar. There are going to be little bits of this all over. On the birch tree, I want some kind of sitting where the tree bends, where there's branches. So I'll add glitter to that as well before attaching the tree to the scene. And my tweezers have become my new best friend. They really help keep my fingers out of the glue. The little cardinal I'm going to have sitting on the branch. And he's teeny tiny, but he's just the perfect accent for a holiday card. I love him. These large garland pieces that I'm going to hang above the door are actually parts of the large wreath. So I am using all 4 pieces that you would use to create a wreath for this really pretty little swag above the door. And it's going to be very much similar to the wreath as far as the colors. I'm not going to add holly berries to this. I'm going to just leave it greenery. And then I'm using that same little bow from the mini wreath set to create a wreath in the center of this little garland or swag, whatever you want to call it. And it really finishes off the top of the doorway. This kind of reminds me of Pottery Barn catalogs at holiday time, where they have the front all beautifully decorated with all of the lovely garlands and wreaths and all of that. Now I'm going to take my Ranger Multi-Matte Medium and draw on glue on this garland because I want little bits of ice or snow crystals all over this, and it's going to give it a really pretty glittery look. So grab my paper again and my glitter, sprinkle this on. I'm going to tap off any excess. And there is what my front panel looks like. So super pretty, really easy to create cards completely out of die cuts. I have done several lately. I will be linking to a couple here at the end of the video, but they're some of my favorite because there are so many fantastic dies available from Lawn Fawn now that you can really create some awesome effects with just dies and no stamps. Now on the inside of my card, I am going to have some stamping so I can have a beautiful greeting. This greeting is from the new Winter Village stamp set. I'm stamping Happy Holidays with the Lobster red ink. Underneath this, my other phrase, also from Winter Village, is going to be stamped with Storm Cloud ink, that gray, same gray color as the front door on the front of the card. And it's going to read From Our Home to Yours, which I think is a beautiful sentiment that matches the front of the card perfectly. There is the inside of the card then. This card also features no greeting on the front of the card, which I don't do very often, but I think for this design it works really well. Once I have attached my panel to the front of the card base, I decided I needed just a tiny bit more glitter. We always need just a little more glitter, don't you think? And I'm going to go ahead and draw that on with my glue, sprinkle on the PRISMA glitter again. Really finishes off this bottom part of the card nice. And I'm going to set this aside to completely dry. And this card featuring all die cuts from Lawn Fawn is going to be all finished. Here's another look at the card, the front of the card, and then opening it up to the inside to show that holiday greeting. Thanks for joining me today for this die cut Christmas card featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring cards created with only die cuts using Lawn Fawn stamps and dies. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.